I did just want to bring it back, if I can, to water for one last time, if I can. You did mention it a bit, but particularly SDG 6, this sense of
Yes.
water and clean drinking water for everyone, and also,
Yes.
I guess, the sanitation aspects of that,
Yes.
because that has an impact as well. You got any final words on that before we wrap things up?
Yes, I think the way I've said, we've grown up in the villages, and water is a huge challenge. And from where we sit in the schools, like I'll give two examples. One of our school is in a place where the water table is a bit high, and you can be able to dig a water well for just doing 30 feet below the ground, and you'll be able to access water. But this is seasonal. When when there's a lot of rain, the water will be much closer. When it's drought season, the water you will have to dig a bit deeper. So you will find in our school we have a water well, for example, that dries up every now and then. And when it's raining, we can do rainwater harvesting and be able to store enough water. But it also means our water well has sufficient water during that time. And then when it dries up and we cannot do rainwater harvesting anymore, the water well also doesn't have enough water to serve us. So it has also been very interesting for me to see these two aspects. And we need to invest in rainwater harvesting because there is sufficient rain, but the cost that comes with getting the water tanks, getting the stand on which these tanks are placed, and making sure that we pipe it in such a way that it's accessible to the children is not something that we just say it's something we'll do like this. It needs resources.
You're back to infrastructure again, aren't you?
Yes, in the infrastructure. Yeah, so you'll find on that particular school, there will be two options. We'll need to either dig a borehole that is deep enough to tap into the main aquifer, or build enough water tanks to make sure that we harvest enough that is able to last us across season. When it's drought season, we have enough. So when you go, and I'll send you a couple of videos when the children are pumping the water from the water well, it's usually boys and girls, and the one who have the most energy is the one who is used to pump it, because we do it manually, and you find they spend quite a bit of time on the pump instead of being in class. So we would like that automated and make sure that, and you can't automate it when it doesn't have enough water. And then you find there is also.
So on that regard, have you reached out at all to any of the global charities like, Charity Water or Water Aid or any of those?
No, we haven't. We've done a couple of proposals to some organizations in Germany. We had a conversation with them, but it didn't quite follow through in terms of them committing to support us. We're still trying to reach out to different people, even local organizations locally, but we haven't found a commitment yet.
So this is an example where people might be able to help you, in some capacity, either as a joint venture in that, or to make funds available for that to happen. Okay.
Yes,
sorry to keep interrupting. There is a bit of a delay. So
yes, it is fine. So you find in that case, we can go both ways. Either rainwater harvesting, do it sufficiently, and then or do a borehole. And this applies then in our other school, in our other second school, where it is also in a rural area. The water table is very low, so you will have to do 120 feet to try and reach. If you're just doing a normal water well, but if you're doing a borehole, you have to go a bit deeper, and this will cost way more in terms of the water that we need. But this will be more sustainable, because then in this particular area is where we are having the school, we are having a lot of farming activities, we are also having the industry set up, we are having a lot of community elements integrated. Actually, if the borehole is done, we are able to not just serve the school and the people in the school, we are able to serve up to 55 households that are within that radius of the school, and this means we reduce the number of hours that children spend looking for water and something like that. But this is one side. The other side is in terms of what this regular availability of water can do in terms of food production.
Yeah.
Because they are doing seasonal farming. You'll find there is times when there is a lot of vegetable. This means during the rainy seasons, and then during drought seasons there will be no vegetable, and prices of vegetable will really go up. So you find if there is sustainable supply of water, and you combine it together with the kitchen gardens that we are training them to do, we are doing sack gardens, we are doing corn gardens, different aspects of farming that will bring many stems into being by utilizing a very small amount of water. This will increase the food security at the household level. So we know that water is actually supporting availability of food. And my father, for example, in the village, is a farmer, but a very seasonal farmer. He depends on the rains. And with the climate change, usually he used to start to prepare his land in mid of January, and then he will plant, he will cultivate towards the third week of February. Now he delays because sometimes the rain comes earlier, sometimes the rain delay. He's not able to keep up with the new patterns of rainfall. And sometimes the rain just rains throughout, and it destroys even the crops he has planted. And then sometimes it doesn't rain at all. So he's struggling to understand the seasons, because the seasons are not the same as 20 years ago, as 25 years ago when we were much younger. So he's not able to conceptualize this in terms of climate change. So the question is, how do we harvest this water? How do we utilize this water in such a way that it's able to stabilize the availability of food in the communities? There is also another interesting aspect.
There's another example again of village to global, because the environment, yes, or the global warming and the impact of that on seasons and climate flows and climate change is another issue that people like your father have not had to contend with in the past. So I guess it's an education process even for the older generations.
Yes, exactly. And they don't have very large pieces of land. They are very subsistence farmers. So they really struggle because more of their harvest has been, more than 60%, 70% of what they used to harvest is no longer there. Then there is streams. These are like natural streams, which have been source of water for many years, and they are usually distances apart from where people live. So you'll find naturally these streams flow throughout in some areas they will flow throughout the season, throughout the year. In some places they are affected when there is a drought and they might dry out. And they have been sustainable sources of water. But when the water is, when they get water from the streams, they usually just consume it and use it that way. It doesn't go through any processing. They'll just consume it. Even the water from the borehole, it doesn't go through any processing, because that is, I think, the aspect you mentioned about the enterprise and the business of water. So in the many of the communities we are working in, people consume water in their raw form. So there are places where the only water that is available is dirty water. It's not very good for human consumption, but because it's the only one available, and there is no purifiers, there are no other elements of how this water can be cleaned up, people are just forced to take it that way, and becomes a source of diseases, a lot of challenges with,
Sorry, I was going to say, I hear all of that. And is pollution adding to that at all? Are you noticing in the rural areas, or particularly, I guess, in the inner city areas, is our water sources being polluted, as well as not being being very muddy and that kind of dirty?
Yes, it is a big challenge. I'll give an example. I was working in a community in the western side. This is particularly around Lake Victoria, and there are a lot of streams there. But at that time, it was in 2014, 2015, the communities had not done pit latrines. They had not dug pit latrines. People used to go to the bushes to help themselves. And this, when it rains, all this that will be swept down the stream, and it will contaminate the water, and you will find a lot of challenges when people consume that water. So there is a lot of pollution, both human and both industrial. Even right now there is a challenge in one of the Nairobi rivers, where a lot of industries are releasing the waste into the main river, contaminating it. But people downstream depend on that river for survival. So there is still a lot of sensitization, and a lot of government is doing a lot of policy around regulating pollution, but there's still just too much that needs to be done in terms of sensitization, in terms of awareness, and people taking responsibility and being more accountable for their actions.
And the water harvesting that you mentioned, I did a project, maybe 15 years ago now. I used to be an accountant, and it was a power station we were putting into in Mauritania, and it's such a vivid image. I can bring it back to mind now, which is that it hadn't rained in Nouakchott, the capital there, for 2.5 years, and in some parts further out rurally, it hadn't rained for 4 years, and they had some rain, and it was fantastic. And the main crossroads in the center of Nouakchott was flooded. And what I loved about it is the donkey carts could go through this, but all the ancient old cars were kind of stuck in the middle of this, but the donkey carts and the 4x4s were managing to go through this flood. So there's all this water has just come down in like 2 days or whatever it was. And yet 48 hours later, it's all evaporated. And we've got kids knocking on the door begging for water again, and within 48 hours, and so there was no way of keeping this water. And for me in the UK, I struggle to get my head around that. So that was a real moment for me in my kind of water journey, if you like. So I love that idea of harvesting. So are there ways that can be done? Are there projects out there that can be supported in that regard?
Yes, in Kenya, actually, that is a phenomena that we experience quite often, especially on the northern side of the country that is very, very dry. There is a lot of stories where people get killed by flash floods. There's just when it rains, it pours. We say like that here, and people get killed with water. And then in a week or so, there's a lot of drought, and cows are dying because they can't get water. Government of Kenya has really embraced the idea of doing water pans and doing basically water pans and open what we call them dams, where they can harvest this water when it's raining heavily. They can only be done at government level, but I have also seen local organizations, some of the organizations supporting community-based water pans, where you can do a water pan, and this becomes an open channel where cows can get access to water, people can get access to water, and it collects. It's like a reservoir for a lot of this rainwater.
Is it a challenge with evaporation and stuff? Do you lose a lot of it very quickly, or?
What we have seen and what I've seen, I haven't gone deep into the evaporation part of it, but what I've seen is there is a lot of technology now in terms of controlling that, and also being able to ensure that it serves throughout the season. But sure, there are some that dry up as quick as the rain stops raining because of the evaporation areas in some areas, actually. Yeah. So that's partly a challenge.
What do you do in the schools?
Even in Nairobi, we face that. Yes.
What do you do in the schools to harvest?
In the schools, it's simple. We will put trappers along the roof of the classrooms and the buildings. So we started putting trappers. Once you put the trappers on the roofs, all the water that comes on the roof will be trapped and be put into water tanks. So what we are looking for at the moment is 10,000 liter tanks that will be able, like if we have 4 per school, that is 40,000 liters of water. But this needs then to be, we need to install a water pump on it, and is able to pump this water into different stations that is needed in the school. So when it comes to school, the system is simple. It's usually just to use the roofs for the buildings, make sure that they are stored with water gutters, and channel that into enough tanks so that when the one tank fills, it fills the other, and it fills the other. This can also be done in the households, that each household can have a water tank, and when it rains, they can be able to do harvesting at that particular level. The beauty of this is this water can be stored for a sufficient period of time, because we can continue to utilize the rain as it rains, and save this one that we have harvested to be used later on when completely there is no water.
Oh, that's fantastic. Zakis, I could talk to you forever because you're a very inspiring guy, and you really know your stuff. I'm gonna let you go in a moment, but as I say, I will get all the information, all the links to your various organizations.
Yes.
I'm going to personally see what I can do particularly around that water issue that you've talked about. Other people can choose to support in other ways, but I definitely would love to do something around that, because I hadn't even thought about the fact that the kids are pumping during school. They're pumping water during their school hours. So that's impacting their education. Yes. And I knew that the girls were probably having to go and get water every day from other locations. So that's my undertaking to you. I'm going to look into creative ways of supporting you and the school in the water side, and I'm hoping that other people will be inspired by this and will help you out in other ways as well. So anything you'd like to say?
You can see me smiling.
Oh, good.
You can see me smiling, because if you help us with water and children are able to access clean water, you will have dealt with so many problems, not just them being in class, even in their health and in their well-being. That will go a long way. And it will really help our teachers and everybody in the school that is working with the kids, because it just brings a sense of being comfortable and feeling confident that when we need water, we'll find it. It takes away the worry from everybody where water will come from. So I really appreciate that you will consider doing something around that. We appreciate it, and we'll be able to work closely with you. Whichever way, it's small or big or medium, all of it will be very, very welcomed. I really appreciate that. And then the viewers, and maybe to...
Sorry, just on that thing. Yes, we'll have a conversation and we'll get creative about what we can do with that. Yes. But thank you, because there is, if ever there was a summary of what this podcast is about, you've just described why water matters to your community, to your school, and to everyone in it. So thank you for that. Yes, you were going to close with something.
Yes, I think thank you very much for watching and having me. Like I said in the beginning, it's always wonderful to have an opportunity to talk about what we are doing and to share with the world, because in our communities, we don't get these opportunities often. We are doing things, people don't know what we are doing, people can't relate with what we are doing, but we don't want to do that. We want to solve our problems and people to understand that there are people who are trying to deal with the issues and the problems, and we want to ask support in a way that it comes to complement the effort that we are already doing and help us realize the goals that we have for our communities. the issues we deal with in our communities are personal to us. They are things that we live with, we have experienced them, and we understand them. And I think when we are talking to audiences like the one you have given me an opportunity to talk to today, it's to help them appreciate that the lived experiences we have and the desire we have to change our communities and to see some of these things dealt with once and for all is what drives us. And what we are experiencing is lack of resources in some cases because of many challenges that are there in our communities and in our country. But it doesn't mean that we don't have the capacity and the know-how and the desire to change things. So if you work with us, and not just us, but even other grassroots organizations that you can identify and work with, appreciate the skills and the understanding and the knowledge that the local communities have, the local people have, and embrace those and see how you can resource them to be able to be the agent of change. Because from where I sit, when young children see me doing what I'm doing, when I work with them, when we just had our World Environment Day where we marched and planted 400 trees in our schools. When I involve these children and we work together with them, I believe it goes beyond just the money itself. It's putting into them an idea that they have to be responsible for their communities, for the resources they have to protect them, they have to take care of them, and they have to be champions for what they want to see in their communities. And I think the next generation has a better chance if we get invested into and get supported, that we can then push that change that we desire to see. So I am really hoping that we can get partners, we can get people, friends, everybody joining in our call and supporting us to be able to realize the bigger goals. We do have a big goal of setting up 100 schools in 100 locations eventually, and bringing all these people together and reaching 10,000 learners, reaching over 50,000 in our cooperative society, and building at least 3 to 4 community industries, putting all these people to work and helping them solve and deal with their own issues in a self-reliant way and in a sustainable way. Thank you.
That's fantastic. And you're a wonderful example for how that can go. I have no doubt that you will create that, because the passion's there, but also, as you say, the structure's there. You wish to be accountable. You wish to be responsible, as an organization, and you're teaching the next generation the same thing. It's truly sustainable, isn't it? Because it's impact based or purpose based.
Yes.
It's accountable, so it's profitable in that sense of sustainable, and it's better for the environment in its widest sense, whether that's the human environment or whether that's the ecology. Beautiful. Well, Zakis, thank you so much indeed. I've loved this, and we will talk again offline. But for now, thank you so much, and all the very best wishes.
Welcome. I am Zakius Ogonji Olopi, founder and CEO of Inua Village to Global Foundation, a local startup in Africa and in Kenya that is working towards solving problems of access to quality education. Africa has 60% of its population living in rural and informal settlement areas. For this, we require solutions that can be able to reach this population. For access to quality education, we have created a platform that has 4 tiers. The first tier is to have Inua Village schools. These Inua Village schools give access to quality education. They provide an opportunity for all the children to learn. Secondly, we have designed Inua farming. Inua farming makes sure that there is access to food. Parents can feed themselves and can feed the children, but we are also able to stock enough food for at least 6 months in case of an emergency. Third is Inua Village to Global Textile Industry, whose main purpose is to provide for jobs, to make sure that parents can work, can earn an income, and they can be able to spend on things like education. Fourth and lastly is Inua Village Cooperative Society, which brings together the parents, trains them on how to save, and helps them to start saving. And through these savings, they can be able to mobilize and can be able to take a cheap credit to use it to start more businesses. We're asking for $200,000 to invest across these platforms, these 4 platforms that I've mentioned, to help us improve the classrooms that we have, to help us increase the amount we can be able to give out in credit to parents, to help us expand our farming project, and to help us expand the textile industry and complete the facility so we can do 10,000 units of clothes. I know with your investment we can achieve this, and if you invest in us, you will never go wrong. Thank you.